I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Harry S. Truman, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
I, Richard Milhouse Nixon, do solemnly swear.
I, Gerald R. Ford, do solemnly swear.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
Presidential inaugurations are important times in the United States. These inaugurations mean something different to every American.
It's a ceremony for America to kind of rally around the new president. And it's a time to kind of signal to the country that we've kind of moved on from the election, because elections can be very tense and polarizing in a lot of ways. They're designed that way. And as a result, you can get an inauguration which would kind of hopefully bring the country together. I think that's usually the goal of the inauguration itself. It's ceremonial.
To me, the presidential inauguration represents more of a tradition in American culture. You know, it represents the peaceful transferring of power from one president, from one elected leader to another elected leader, and that's what it's about.
The presidential inauguration means that it's the beginning of a new term, a fresh start on trying to solve some of the problems that are facing America. And that's how I think about the inauguration.
Well, it's the changeover in power in Washington. So we have a new president. This time we have a new president being inaugurated. The change of parties, not just a new person, but change in party, change in leadership. So there'll be a lot of new people coming into Washington. So it's a big change.
I guess the best way I can explain it is it's a new beginning. You know, it's a chance to kind of correct our course, and you know, it's sort of a natural American process of, you know, fixing things and you know, giving a new chance, but in a very sort of non-violent way, so to speak. A lot of countries, change of power can be very violent, and I think it's a testament to the greatness of our country that we can change power, you know, in a very peaceful way.
Inaugurations have a tremendous effect on the entire country and every individual.
I think as a country, the inauguration stands for you know, it's a focal point. People look to the ceremony as, okay, you know, now we are for all intents and purposes, even though we might disagree with some politics, we are uniting under this leader, and you know, I think it's a focus that we do on a regular basis.
That it's a change in direction. It's new leadership, new party, that the country is looking for, in this particular instance, looking for change. And that right now we're in not in the best economy, so they're hoping that a new person will spur an improvement in the economy. We're involved in a war, and I think the people are looking to close that. You know, they're looking for some big changes to happen. I know that's one of the parts of Obama's platform was that it's going to change. So we'll see if that happens. Change usually happens much more gradually than people expect, but it should be different.
Well, again, I think it's a time for the country to really take stock of itself and to look at where it is. It's almost a benchmark to say this is where we've been the last couple of years and this is where we want to go. And so I think it's really a time for the nation to almost reset their priorities. I think the election is the start of that process, where the nation as a whole really asks, what do we want in a leader and where do we want to go and which leader represents that? And I think the inauguration is really the beginning of the actual work that it will take to fulfill that hope.
The inauguration is it's a renewal. It's a chance to give somebody else and some other party often a chance to solve the problems that are facing the country, because there's always problems, but there's always disagreements about how to solve them. There isn't always a right answer. So there's always a kind of sense of hope when you have a new president being inaugurated and to affect the country.
Well, I mean, I think the most famous inauguration, maybe not the most famous, but famous to a history teacher, would be the first inauguration, the first really significant inauguration would be when Jefferson came in 1800. And one of the famous lines from that was, "We are all Federalists now." He had just gotten into this really polarizing election with John Adams, and they finally come to this decision, the country come to the decision to vote for Jefferson. I think that tone, that whole idea of we are no longer divided anymore, even though we just went through this really tense election, is a tone that has been picked up from and inspired by Jefferson's speech.
President-elect Barack Obama's inauguration is already being seen as a historical event.
Well, this is really important not only because it's a change in party, but it's also the first person of color that we'll have in that office, and that is a huge change. I think that, especially too, being that the inauguration is taking place the day after we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, I think that's a big moment. I think it shows that we've reached a very different point in this country, and it's a good place to be.
Well, it's a very unique, the most unique, I guess, inauguration in our history, because we are electing someone who is not the traditional white American candidate, no matter what state he's from. You're inaugurating someone who represents African Black America for a change. And I think that's a tremendous effect and a change in the country.
I think that what we know about Obama is mainly through his speeches. That seems to be the way that he has been able to communicate to the public. Whereas I think that if you look at other people who have run, you tend to look at what their legislation is. I think people were more inspired by what he had to say about America. And so I think we have very high expectations for Obama. I think the country has very high expectations. We all hope that he makes them, but I think that it's kind of a speech of a lifetime in some ways.
I think this inauguration is important because of the person. It's definitely about the man rather than about the ceremony this time. I mean, it's always about the man, but this time, because Barack Obama won an election in which the electorate was just seemed more involved and more energized. People are looking at everything he does, and this is almost like the first big public spectacle of his presidency. And I think people are looking to this as the starting point. Let's see how he gets off on the right or wrong foot.
The upcoming inauguration has had a huge effect on South Brunswick high school students.
This year, the Dead Presidents Society is going down to Washington, D.C. We're raising money to go to the actual presidential inauguration in Washington to see Barack Obama be sworn in as the next president. We're going down there with about 45 club members and a couple faculty members.
We're going to leave really early in the morning on the 18th, and that day we're going to tour some of the monuments. I think we have a Smithsonian visit that day. That night we have a night tour of the monuments. It's spectacular to see them all lit up at night. The next day we go to Mount Vernon, and then we have our inaugural ball that night. And then the following day is the actual inauguration, which should be fabulous. I hope it's not too cold, but it should be incredible. And then our last day there, we go to Congress. We have actually a personal tour at Capitol Hill. And we're going to the Supreme Court and the National Archives and all that.
We're we're very excited about it. The ball this year, the funds from the ball this year are helping us defray the cost of this trip, which is insanely expensive, if you can imagine being in Washington at that time. So us and 3 to possibly 4 million of our closest friends will be down in Washington, to witness this historical event. It's one of the biggest things that I think we've ever done, and if all goes according to plan, it's going to be a very memorable trip for the people that are coming with us.
It's just going to be. We're going to see so many sights. We're going to take in so much. We have a tour guide with us at all times who's going to, give us all the high points. For me, it's like going back. I mean, I went to college in D.C., and I lived down in that area for quite some time. Love D.C. There's always something to do. I mean, in 4 days, we're not going to do everything we could possibly do, but it's going to be a lot of fun.